Looking up at the stars, there's just something about it, right? And I bet that feeling, that curiosity, is why you're tuning in today.
Absolutely, is that sense of wonder.
And we're going to explore something really cool, how science fiction, all those imaginative stories, might actually be, well, a huge influence on the real history of space exploration.
It's a fascinating link, one that maybe doesn't get talked about enough. We see the rockets, the equations.
Right, the hard science.
But where did the idea first spark? Often it was in sci-fi.
Exactly. We've been looking at this great piece from Hackerdoon. It's called Why Science Fiction May Be the Root of Space Exploration. And our mission really is to dig into that.
Yeah, to connect the dots between the stories and the actual space flights.
To see how imagination kind of paved the way. I mean, it still gets me that we only landed on the moon in '69.
It feels both recent and ages ago, doesn't it? But sci-fi writers, they were picturing moon landings, cosmic journeys long, long before that.
Decades, even centuries before.
And these weren't just, vague fantasies. Some were surprisingly detailed ideas of what could be.
For sure. The article mentions some real heavy hitters from the past couple hundred years, especially that golden age, 40s, 50s, 60s.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about the greats.
Like Jules Verne, Robert Heinlein, Frank Herbert, Isaac Asimov, of course. They were the trailblazers in imagining all this.
And it wasn't just books. The article brings up something from way back in 1902, A Trip to the Moon, that film.
Oh, that image, the rocket in the moon's eye. So iconic.
Totally iconic. And it's seen as, well, pretty much the first real science fiction movie adaptation focused on space.
So why is that film so important in this story?
Well, what's really interesting is where it came from. Georges Méliès, the director, he was directly inspired by Jules Verne, specifically Verne's novels, From Earth to the Moon, that was 1865, and Around the Moon from 1870.
Wow, so even right at the start of cinema.
Exactly. They were already grabbing onto these literary space dreams, scientists shooting off to the moon in a giant cannon-propelled capsule, meeting moon people. It captured the imagination.
It's amazing how an idea from a book jumps to the screen like that. Okay, let's talk more about these writers. Jules Verne, you mentioned him. He seems foundational.
Definitely. Verne, writing back in the 1800s, he brought a kind of technical plausibility to it all.
Plausibility? How so?
Well, his methods, like the giant cannon.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe a bit out there now.
Right, maybe not the most practical.
No. But he treated it like an engineering problem. He put numbers in, talked about forces. It wasn't just magic. It made people think, maybe we could actually engineer something like this.
It planted the seed of possibility.
Precisely. That initial, could we?
Okay, fast forward a bit. Isaac Asimov. The article says he had this massive and kind of controversial influence.
Yeah, Asimov's big thing, according to the article, was basically inventing the concept of the Galactic Empire as we know it in pop culture, his Foundation series.
Right, foundation. Huge scope.
Exactly. This idea of civilization sprawling across stars, the logistics, the communication, the politics of it all. The article suggests that maybe, just maybe, thinking on that grand scale influenced how real scientists and planners later approached the idea of large-scale space efforts.
Even if the details were fiction, the sheer scale of thinking changed.
That's the argument. The controversy sometimes comes from, the interpretations of his complex societies, the power structures. Lots to unpack there.
Makes sense. Just imagining it primes the pump. Okay, Robert Heinlein. Starship Troopers, 1959. What was its impact?
Starship Troopers. The article flags that one for really shaping how we picture futuristic military forces. Power armor, soldiers in space.
You see that everywhere now in sci-fi.
Absolutely. It kind of set the template for space marines fighting aliens on distant worlds. It influenced entertainment massively, but maybe even trickled into how people conceptualized, future space defense or security.
Interesting. It's like these writers were creating a shared language for the future in space. What about Arthur C. Clarke? The article credits him with really making space travel popular in the 50s and 60s.
Clarke was brilliant at bridging the science and the public. He could take complex ideas and make them understandable, exciting.
How did he do that?
The article points to his 1950 book, Interplanetary Flight. It wasn't just a story. It was like, here's how space travel basically works, explained for, regular people.
Using the actual science of the time.
Yeah, based on the astronautical knowledge they had then. He was like a translator, making the physics accessible.
Making it feel real, believable.
Exactly. And he didn't just generalize, he made predictions. The big one, of course, was telecommunication satellites in geostationary orbit.
He actually predicted that.
He did, based on orbital mechanics. That kind of foresight, grounded in science, really boosted his credibility and made people think, wow, this space stuff might actually happen.
That's incredible foresight, informed imagination, like you said. Okay, the article goes even further back. Voltaire.
Yeah, François-Marie Arouet, Voltaire, his 1752 novel, Micromegas.
It's a super early example of thinking about space travel.
1752. What was he imagining back then?
He wrote about these travelers from other worlds, like Saturn and Sirius, with much more advanced tech.
Okay.
And get this, the novel talks about them traveling using forces of repulsion and attraction. The article connects this directly to Isaac Newton's work, his laws of motion.
Wow, so even back in the Enlightenment, they were weaving the latest science into stories about space.
Seems like it. That interplay between science and imagination goes way back.
That's wild. The article also talks about magazines being important.
Oh, hugely important. Publications like Amazing Stories, Weird Tales, they were like the incubators for these ideas.
The community hubs.
Exactly. They gave writers a place to publish these wild stories and readers a place to find them. They built this whole culture around speculating about space and the future. Undoubtedly inspired people who later went into aerospace.
Like the original internet forums for space dreams. Okay, I'm thinking about those early dreams. Travel between stars. When did that start showing up?
The article mentions Edward E. Smith's Skylark of Space. It was published in 1946, so still quite early, and it's one of the first big stories about interstellar travel.
Going beyond the solar system, how did they do it in the story? What was the fictional tech?
It involved discovering a new substance,
Yeah.
element X, mixing it with copper, and then using some kind of field from a particle accelerator.
Definitely sounds like sci-fi.
Oh yeah, pure imaginative science. But the point is, even then, writers were already pushing past the moon, past Mars, and dreaming about the stars.
It really hammers home that central idea, doesn't it? This deep, enduring human dream of getting out there.
It really does. And the article connects that dream to our knack for invention. You know, how we humans tend to imagine something first.
And then figure out how to build it.
Right, using whatever tech and resources we have at the time. Science fiction, the article says, is like that small leap of imagination.
It helps us picture what seems impossible.
Exactly. It stretches our thinking, lets us even conceive of leaving Earth in the first place. Even if the story's physics are totally made up, it plants the seed.
And the article ends on a really interesting note about the future of space exploration maybe being different, more about coexisting.
Yeah, it touches on this idea that maybe we'll move beyond just dominating new environments towards a more, I don't know, balanced relationship.
That's a hopeful thought, a more mature approach, maybe.
Perhaps. Reflecting how our thinking is evolving, maybe. About our place in the universe, responsibility applies here or out there.
So, wrapping this all up, it seems pretty clear science fiction wasn't just, fun stories.
Not at all.
It was a real driving force. It lit the fire of imagination, painted these pictures of what could be out there.
And in doing that, it really did lay some crucial groundwork, intellectually, culturally, for the actual steps we've taken towards the stars.
It really did. Which leaves us with a pretty cool final thought to ponder. If past sci-fi had this much impact, what seeds are being planted now? What are today's science fiction stories maybe hinting at for our future among the stars? What tech, what societal shifts are they foreshadowing?
That's the big question, isn't it? What dreams today become tomorrow's reality out there?